Hello. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Feels like the end of quite a long week.
Long as in a lot accomplished or long as in dragged out?
Let's see. Probably just quite a lot going. It just feels like it's been 5 days, and yeah, this is not a great time of the day for me really to kind of meet because it's right at the end of the working week, and you've still got a day in front of you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we landed on this hour, this day, but
You know,
you may want to reconsider that too.
yeah, it's always, you know, different days work better and different times work better for different people on their situations. It's just how it is, really. Yeah. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it feels for me. It feels like there's definitely a lot going on. Um, what I'm enjoying is right now is this weaving that's happening on so many fronts, and with my business side too, and just seeing things manifest because you imagine it, and it's really cool to see that happen.
Mm.
It's fun. Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Hi, Grace.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Duke dropped off Astara from school, and here he is. I'm reminding him. Hey, hon, just to remind you, MBW.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Duke.
Hello, Duke.
I just played a game of Magic against
Hi, Rose.
Hi, Rose. Hello, everyone.
Hello. I play a game of Magic by myself.
Rose, you can change your name on your.
Yeah.
You may want to do that just for everybody, whoever else should.
I think if you just click on your name, Rose, you should be able to click on.
Oh yeah, rename.
Rename. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you over at the wing?
I am. I'm at the wing where my sister's a member here. It's an all-female workspace. So I came and worked with her for the day, but it's Friday evening, so it's a little bit empty.
Oh, sorry, Isa. We have a.
I'm not sure who else is joining us. I know Ari had it at the beginning of the week on his schedule. So if we want to wait for a few moments to see who else might join.
Okay.
Everybody's well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've got this sort of stressful tennis thing happening half an hour after we end.
How I remember you had said that last time. How is it going?
It's the most stressful thing in my life. Not the tennis. The tennis is great, the sport. But I'm involved in like a bunch of local politics around trying to get lights on.
Oh, not this again.
That doesn't get a tag.
Grace just asked me a question, Rose, so I was just trying to be polite and
Go on.
I'm sorry. I didn't know I was opening a can of worms.
It's the most stressful thing in my life, and it's quite boring to everybody who's not involved in it, so it's okay.
It's saying something that it's the most stressful thing, though.
Yeah.
Fairly peaceful life.
I guess, yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had a very productive day. It's just one of those days where you kind of get through to-do lists. Just tick things off. Feels quite nice. Doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. So I'm thinking before we do like our 1 minute kind of integration meditation thing, just a quick overview for today. Our focus is the playbook and next steps, right? So thank you, Paul, for creating that playbook. I think it's such a great start in terms of bringing everything together and synthesizing all the things that we're, like all of our gifts and ideas and talents and where we're moving towards. So I'm so glad that we're really creating and carving out a time to really look at this piece, because I think it is important moving forward. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
At least I'm
So,
using my hands on the table so I can stand.
okay. All right. Shall we just start with our meditation, integration? And one of the things I thought would be interesting to check in is at the end, there would be the question of the day. Just a way of checking in with each other and to be answered 30 seconds or less. So we're also being mindful of the time. All right. Oh, Isa, if you'd like, I'm going to be doing a meditation. You can come and join us if you like. Okay.
Just don't make any noise for a few minutes.
For just a few minutes, sweetheart. Thank you. He's homesick today, so he's chilling with us. All right, so let's begin to tune in together into the present moment. Just being here together. Let's take a moment to center ourselves. You can choose to close your eyes or have a gentle gaze. Finding a comfortable sitting position as you are. Feeling the weight of your body on the chair. Your feet on the floor. Your breath gently rising and falling. And with each breath, let the activities of the day fall away. And let the activities of your mind of what needs to happen and what's going to happen, let that fall away. Let all of that, just let it rest as you rise in this moment. Accessing the opportunity of the moment, the gifts of this moment. Releasing any feelings or sensations of tension or resistance. With the next exhale, just releasing that. Any block from you being really present here and now. Releasing any of that resistance. Softening into your body, quieting the mind. Connecting with your heart center. Becoming fully present to this moment. Relaxed and yet alert. Spacious and yet aware. Now let's turn our attention to our team who are in the call with us. And together now, opening our hearts to one another. Accessing the wisdom that's emerging from within. Seeing our meeting opening and flowing just naturally. Connecting with the spirit of community, of solidarity. Feeling our interconnectedness. And in this way, let us come back together in our circle, opening our eyes if they're not opened already, and just sensing what you're feeling in this moment, how you are within, and how we are together. And with this, then, the question for the day is, what is the story we are telling ourselves about our project, where we are right now in our lives, where we are right now in this time together? What is that main story you're telling yourselves? So if we could just go around, just naturally sharing 30 seconds or less to get an idea of where we are each at in the circle. Paul, would you like to start?
Yeah. I think the question for me is how to kind of balance the desire, intention to do with the intention how to kind of enable MBW24 while also that as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mark?
I don't know if it's a question, but it's just a sense of feeling the resonance yesterday, and I sent it out. Just that notion that Charles said in the connecting to the video. I want to create conditions that serve the birth of that new story and serve the spread of that story. And that's where I really feel present and resonance with that. And this is where I am right now with what we are tending to.
Beautiful. Thank you. Vicky?
There's so much that I want to do and to support this new story. And, you know, it feels a little overwhelming sometimes because there is so much in such a full life and lives that we have. You know, yeah, and I just, you know, I just want to support it to be the best it can be, but also make sure that we have something beautiful together.
Yeah, where I am is I'm really curious and inspired to see what we can create together. Just, yeah. One step at a time. Okay. All right.
Rose.
So, thank you so much for sharing.
Rose.
Oh, yeah.
There you are, Rose.
Yeah, no, I think...
there you are. Okay.
Yeah. Something really comes to mind a lot is that I just feel quite grateful to have learned quite a lot in this experience. Something that I feel like the things that we talk about here, I often relay and talk about with other people, and I often get a kind of reaction of really quite cool, where did you hear that? Or it's never kind of just something off a podcast or things like that. Like, I think we go into places that I've never really explored in this call. So yeah, just gratitude. And also I'm very curious about seeing us do this in a different way. So I like the thing that people keep peppering it with. I don't want to do it in kind of conventional work norms or whatever that is. exploring kind of new ways of doing it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay. With that, shall we then go on with the meeting? Paul, would you like to lead this part of the meeting where you could just go over the playbook?
Yeah.
Great.
So I had a go at sort of starting us off with the playbook. I could screen share that. Obviously, everybody's sort of had it, and I don't know what's happened to it since I sent it out. Would it be useful for me to kind of walk through it?
Yes, that would be great. So we really understand.
Yeah, get a sense of it from
you,
source, yeah.
from the source. From
Yeah.
you who did it.
Okay, let
Yeah,
me.
Paul, if you could, while you're pulling it up, and maybe preface with what your intent is of what you're sharing.
Okay.
Great.
Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So there were two bits to this. I thought there should be if you like, a sort of slide deck that could get shared with people. This is not design. This is me just dropping content into a template that just seemed, okay. And it felt like the kind of thing that we would be able to share with people that we're inviting in this sort of next wave. And I'm sort of assuming somebody who knows, let's say, nothing about More Beautiful World, Our Hearts Know Is Possible, never heard of Charles, doesn't kind of understand what a 24-hour live stream is. And I just thought it would be, so that's where I was coming to it from. And so it's phrased as an invitation, because we're inviting people to participate. I think there is also in that a kind of, I don't know if the word is assessment, but there's a kind of threshold that people we invite in need to, in a way, come through an initiation, because we want to invite people in, but we also want to make sure that they fight for MBW24, etc. So it's not an open invitation. It's an invitation to explore, I suppose, whether there's the right relationship to enable this to happen. And then I just picked up this phrase, if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere, which was one of the things that we'd said, that if you're sharing an example of the More Beautiful World, we're saying, well, if it can happen here, it can happen somewhere else. And this idea of rippling out. And then I thought I picked up content that seems to have resonated with people. And I kind of thought, well, I'll kind of start with the kind of, if you like, the essence of what the 24-hour live stream is, which is a date, 24 hours, stories and examples, introducing the idea of the More Beautiful World, Our Hearts Know Is Possible. This idea that it's happening right now in our world, this idea that it's not a future place to get to, that it's a current, present experience and reality, but just not kind of a cultural norm yet. And then saying the live stream will allow people to watch, listen, engage with practical, tangible examples, getting back to that idea and then restating the kind of strap line. Then I thought it would be good for Ari here potentially to add in a film that he's got or could find or whatever. And I just put in a little thing from a charity that I donate to called Charity Water. And they're just about bringing clean water to different communities and the transformational effect of that. And it was just a short film. So that's really just a kind of holding position. And I'm hoping that Ari might have something that is kind of, that would work there. Then it's kind of, in a way, saying maybe this should come earlier, and all of this stuff's up for kind of debate movement. This is then sort of sharing the context, which is, well, the idea of this kind of that Mazin talked about, you know, what's the sort of challenge that this is then the response to, and it seems to be that people kind of get that there is this thing called a dominant media narrative of despair, fear, despondency that everybody's deeply familiar with, and this is to say we're not denying that, but there are other realities, and this MBW24 is kind of manifesting that reality. And there are many stories, I don't know, probably in the millions, I don't know if that's the right number, but that provide evidence that the more beautiful world is alive and thriving now. So it's kind of aligning those two ideas of a current narrative that's I'll call somewhat despairing, and another narrative that is more hopeful, I suppose. And then I get into, well, but this sort of more beautiful story narrative is here, but it's fragmented, and so it often denies an unseen part of our shared reality. So it is part of our shared reality, but a lot of it's unseen, unnoticed. And so this will be one contribution, not the only contribution, to shifting our experience of what is real and true in our world today. I mean, and I think this idea is really catching on. There's a local magazine in Oxford called OX, and their front cover for January was sort of "Why Optimism is Back," or something like that, or "The New Optimism." And I think there's a kind of thing going on which is around this. People are exhausted by sort of despair and despondency, and they're wanting something more hopeful. So then I've just kind of picked up a bunch of different examples to try and in a way bring the idea of, well, what would these examples look like? So that's just sharing those. And then I'm thinking, well, we also need to add in the parts that I'm not, I don't think, you know, I think it's that I couldn't put anything in on this, but, you know, we need to have something around, well, what is this conscious agreement? What's the, if you like, what's the contract here? What's the agreement that we and other people who are going to participate are involved in? So I just put a holding place for that. And then, I don't know if it's the right word, is initiation. What's the kind of process to, it sounds a bit scary to be invited into something, to be initiated. It sounds, I don't know, like you're going to go off into the desert for 3 nights and come back completely different, and, you know, leave your family, change your name, you know. So probably a little bit less daunting than that. And then I thought it might be useful to have a sort of sense of the timeline, getting back in maybe into a more earthly sort of sense of it. And then also that, you know, we're recruiting, if that's the right word, maybe you can help us. And then I put in some of the roles that I think I can see we need: producers, production teams, researchers, technical teams, people who connect. And then I keep coming to this idea of having like community health workers, people who are responsible for the MBW community. And I shared something on email that I'd heard from a podcast that Extinction Rebellion apparently have got like therapists donating time to keep all the people involved in that, if they need it, almost like dealing with the grief, the pain, the fear. It's like they're thinking about the health of that kind of, I'll call it spiritual activist movement, which I think is a really mature way of thinking. Then I thought we need administrative, and I put in ceremony. That's something that again keeps coming back, that I think is different, and I think it's going to be an important part of it. And then something around money. What are you committing to? Well, apologies, typing error there. If after connecting there's a collective desire for you to participate, collective I meant on our part and their part, then you commit as much or as little time and resources as you want, maybe a minimum of an hour a week. Maybe that wouldn't work. Maybe we need people to put in more than, I don't know. There's a set of conscious agreements, and we need those to be accepted. And you can leave at any time, because life, is life. And then how to connect with us. And then the other bit that I'd shared was the Google Doc, which I'll just open up, which was just my take on getting a bit more executional, because we wanted to show what an hour would look like. So I went through like hour 1, and I don't know if it starts at 6 o'clock PST AM, or that could change depending on when we want it started. But where's the studio at that time? The idea, you start with a song, then the hosts do a welcome. They take people through what's going to happen in the hour ahead. They have a little chit chat together, explain how to connect into the program, etc. Then there's a ceremony which lasts 3 minutes. Maybe that's the right place. And then we go live to a project. So I just put, Healing the Land in California. So that's just a holding place for what could be a project. And then I thought we could have an interview. And so I put in David Byrne, who does Reasons to be Cheerful. And then Mansi from Pollination. And then I thought it'd be great to have people call in, like phone in, like people dialing in, conversation. And then at the end of the hour, like what's coming up next. And that's an hour. And then what I did was I just went through, well, what would the whole 24 hours look like? So this is like a suggestion of the 24 hours. So you have different themes for different hours, but I think the overall theme in my mind has always been the idea of home, that the art for overarching theme. And what I like about that is it's like home. Is it my home? Is it our home? Is it Earth? I just think it's a really interesting thing. Our dog walker, Karen, and she's not the kind of person who I would say would be into joining MBW24 or anything as I'll say sort of slightly out there as that. She's very sort of grounded. She walks dogs in the village, and she said, I was telling her about the tree planting that Ali and I did last Saturday, and she said, yeah, it's great. She said, that's really good. She said, as she put it, we've got to repair the land, because we've done so much damage to it. And so in a way, she's completely plugged in and saying that our mission at the moment is to repair our home. And I thought to myself, that's just as much a part of this cultural change that's happening. And I think it's almost becoming how people think. So I put in different themes: community, water, children, economy. I think I quite like putting in things that might at first glance not seem what you might expect. So you probably don't expect to have a theme on violence, but there is, but I think it's possible to do something like that, but to focus on coming from violence to non-violence. And I think mystery, health, transport. I think one of the things Charles said was he liked the sort of eclecticism of all of this.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you think we should just pause to see if anybody's got views on, because there's been quite a lot there to cover.
I've pretty much finished after I do it, and then I've just put down the different studios where it could happen, and then essentially what you do is you plug them in, and then the other bits of this grid, and I think some of you have already seen it, just has what we would typically do when we're kind of doing that. But I'll stop the sharing bit, so that that's the end of the kind of playbook bit.
Rose, did you have something particular that there was a lot there, but was there something particular you wanted to start with?
No, I think I was still thinking about the first deck that you sent, and just about the wording. The way we word it is quite, I guess, important. Thinking about, do we say recruiting rather than, or do we say kind of like welcoming, or nurturing, or exploring, or something different there? And yeah, I agree. The initiation perhaps implies like university initiation, things like that. Not particularly nice. So something like welcome, I think would be better there. Yeah, I think I had something else, but I can't remember what it was.
You know, I see this as, I feel like I've sort of done my bit now, and I've passed that on, and I'm really not attached to what happens next to it. So I'd like it to, I think the things you said, Rose, and anything that you want to change, and I think the idea of the call was we would, you know, review it, and it's not like you need to kind of, so I'd love that.
So if I can jump in, a few things. What I'd like to do is take, because there is a lot there, and I'd like to kind of break it out into two components. There's the content of the message, as you brought up, Grace, and that has to do with who's it to, at what time period of our project right now. That's kind of the context. And then the language that we use in it, like you said, Rose. The other components, that's the content, creating whatever that content is. The other is the delivery of that message. And at the moment, I hear the word deck, and you know that we're sharing something, and we have a website. And so I'm trying to understand, you know, these different aspects of, we want to say something, share something, and we want to deliver that somehow to engage people. So that's my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
No, the way that I was imagining that to happen was that, let's say this deck is posted on the website, right? And then also, if people were to connect with us via email, we would then share that deck via email to people who are interested, or anyone we want to share this work with, instead of us having to, you know, talk to them, interview them, etc. We would say, please give us your email and I'll send you this so that you could look at it. And then if you're really interested, we could talk, or whatever that next step is.
A deck can be very powerful for communication. And I found in business and in life, it's really good as a backdrop of talking points when you're communicating something. So, you know, it could be when we're introducing someone to it, but also, yeah, I mean, we could just send people the deck, but I find, I don't know, I don't really look through. I mean, sometimes I do when it's important to me, but yeah, and it could be a nice, like, basic way to like get through the information and see like what it's about. But also, like, I wonder if there's some opportunities to present this to small groups of values aligned people, you know, and just speak about it. It seems like a nice backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
And guide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like we have a meeting of Impact Leaders Group in the area in a couple of weeks, so we can present that.
Okay, I just want to two things. One is the keeping a separate deck current versus we've got a website that people go to and that is what's current. I like your idea of then the deck is contained there so we can keep it current, or there may be multiple decks depending on who the targeted audience that you're sharing something with as it grows. So delivery, I think, is important that we look at that. And then, okay, so content and the message. are we looking to do this more as a simple story, and at this point with who we're inviting in, how deep or what kind of structure, how do you want to deliver the bits and pieces of the information? So I can give you an example at where we're at right now. Paul, you talked about a calendar or a timeline. So I'm going to share now. Speak to that a little bit. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
You see the timeline?
I love it.
Okay, so just I'm going to speak in general to what we're doing and where we're at right now, and it may help round out the story here. We're on the left, and we've started building community. So on the bottom, you see our community circle started. And as time goes on, that circle's been growing in size. And the energy that puts out is helping us to grow this project. That community circle is going to be amplified as through Ben Roberts and his Now What platform and the community that he brings together. That's happening March 23rd through May 1st. And I confirmed with Ben last night that we can, in fact, leverage his platform to help carry us through to launching MBW24 by building community and using the people that are integrated into that, using that platform to weave and grow this project. Community circle. Production circle that you're now starting, which again, we had a discussion yesterday with Grace, myself, actually Charles jumped on, Duke was there. First of all, what's the term, Ari and Paul had this discussion, what does the term production really mean? Because it means certain things within, you know, the profession, as well as it may mean something to us just thinking about, we're producing this whole thing, and it may be more expansive or more refined depending on the context. So, but production is getting something done. That's how we kind of see it, and this overall arching thing. And we're in that right now. That's what we're doing. We are part of this production circle. We're looking to grow it. And then the story circle as well has been going on, because that's the new story. So we're trying to figure out, what is the story? We're trying to create this, our story here together, to enable the articulation of this greater story that we believe that is going on out there, and we want to help amplify it. And as time goes on, those circles will get bigger, will bring more energy to it from the active participation of those engaged. And we have, over time, as we head towards MBW24 live, we have Now What, as I brought up, that's going to be a great opportunity to bring in the breadth of people, and we'll want to be prepared for that with whatever these messages are, whether it's on the web or within decks. But I think that's our target date to really launch the community and the, you know, stepping out from our core circle here. We have June solstice of 2020. That's a year out, so that's a milestone that we'll want to tend to and have some kind of celebration and acknowledgement of. We have MBW Esalen in November, where it's Charles' group bringing together those that have been to Esalen with him before around the More Beautiful World concept. Then we have solstice again in December, and then we have Now What in spring again, and then we have our June solstice. By the way, on the date, I did want to address that, because in all of the documents I was looking at, we do have June 21st, 2021, but when I look online again, it shows June 20th. So we do want to confirm our date. June 20th is a Sunday, June 21st is a Monday, so I just wanted to drop that.
I don't know, I thought it was the 21st, and I think it ought to be a Monday, not a Sunday. Obviously it's going to, but maybe there are different views. I think we've always been talking about the 21st, not that it's that big a deal.
Yeah, we did say the 21st.
But I don't understand why, because when I looked online last night just to confirm it, because I suddenly had two different dates in my documents. Well, we want to confirm if it's the 21st, it's a Monday.
I should think about if
You should do the Monday.
Would a Monday be better than a Sunday? Sunday, maybe more people would be home to watch it rather than be at work. I don't know.
That's an interesting question. I think it'd be useful to get maybe a view from people in the different communities, like Ben, Charles.
Yeah.
Let's do it whichever date is better. I mean, because it could be the 19th and the 20th. It could be the Saturday and the Sunday.
For example.
It could be a Monday and a Tuesday.
I like leaving it open as a question as we bring a wider group together.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to it, but I think let's see when there's probably, let's get, I think, a bit from people with a bit more experience in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So point being, we have our first timeline.
Nice.
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful, Mark.
Okay, so now I'm going to share with you something else, and this is going to expand the conversation.
I love the way your mind works. It's so different to mine.
Yeah, me too.
So you need
It's lovely.
It
I
is.
love it because I felt like I was sharing with Mark that it captures not only the chronos, but also the kairos, the opportunities and what's happening.
Yeah, I think it picks up on the idea of circles, expanding circles as
Yeah.
well.
Love it.
It also reminds me, I don't know why this, but it looks like a human body, like a skeleton.
yeah,
I know
like
that
an
sounds a bit dark, but not in a sort of gross way, just like in another dimension gives that to it, human.
One of the things that I like about it is that it goes off of each end, because we're just a segment. We're in a moment of time.
Yeah.
It's been going on forever and will continue. And that to me is an important part of the thread, that the journey that we're on, is recognizing it didn't start with us, it's not ending with us. We're just part of the continuum.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see, how do I get off share? Here we go. The other thing is, if you, hold on, let me see.
Hi, Ari.
Hi, Ari.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, there it is.
In transport to dropping Luna and then picking up some stuff for Michelle, who's a little under the weather, but I've been listening for the last 15 or so.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm sharing our website. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to the last tab, which is seedlings. This is right now, as it stands, what I see is the container for providing the information of our growth and the journey that we're on. So now, what I've put here is the overview, which we started with. If you recall, the PDF that was a collection of everything that we did with Mazen and Charles, mantras and all that. And then now it's got the timeline. This, for now, what I saw this as a container. The next document would be this overview that Paul's working on, that we boiled down to make it nice and tight, a simple kind of metaphorical illustration of some kind to make it easy to digest. Here's what an hour looks like. Here's what the 24 hours would look like. And this is how I saw this, as a container to move this information out, which is then why I asked, okay, so where are we sharing what information? Because actually the website is a lot of what you already have, Paul, in your document. So for example, on the MBW24, there's your intro. It's all there, right?
Yeah, I think it's a sort of somewhat repurposing. I think we collectively felt we needed a playbook, even though we probably got all the content already.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I'm thinking probably would be good is for me to take the 1 hour detailed and the 24 hours overview and put it into the actual slide deck, because I think it it sort of would sit quite nicely in there. Here's an example of an hour in some level of detail, and here's the current, or here's my first take on the 24 hours.
I wonder, I'm not sure if that would be kind of accessible to see that, because it's quite, seeing like an Excel sheet is quite overwhelming. If you're sent something on an email and you want to just bite size, what is this project going through, it might be a lot to have that in it. I think that would be better placed in the production team, if you call it, because that slide deck, if I'm right in saying, is going to be sent to anyone who is interested to tell them what it is. So, I mean, if that's what we're using it for, I think it should probably not be, I don't know if other people have different views, but for me, I think it should be like bare minimum on that slide deck of what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost like a storyboard. Like, you know, if you had just a little image of here's two people talking and then it's just a sentence, you know, it's like, here they are for 20 minutes talking about da-da-da-da, you know, in their neighborhood. And then, you know, just like a little simple storyboard, it makes it easy to digest them.
Mark, could you take what I've put in the Google Doc and sort of illustrate it in your own kind of way that then could get put into the slide deck?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of playing with it.
Because I think you'll kind of, I think you'll do that in a way that I can't.
Yeah, there's a lot there already, so I can take that. One of the things I did want to talk about was going back to the last part of your presentation, the list of different focal points. You had it on a one-to-one, and I don't know if that was intentional, like in Africa, someplace we'll talk about violence, or someplace we'll talk about this for that hour, versus we should find, what I'd like to do is find the thread that goes through the 24 hours as the kind of componentary thing that we hold on to. And then it may be that throughout the hour in different places of the world, you're going to get a sense of this kind of story, of this and that will touch on those different things, but it's not a formulaic, so to speak, one-to-one. It's just those kinds of stories will come out.
I think that's fine. I don't know if it's useful to have these different themes for each hour or not.
Yeah, and I think that's what the email that Adam sent out about what happens along the journey within morebeautiful.world as a container for this information to be able to share it and develop it along the way, getting to MBW24 Live, where then it is in there, accessible or linkable and tagged or filtered in some way so that you know it relates to that place or that topic or that sensibility. So that's how I think we see MBW24 or MBW, the website, growing as a vessel and a connector to help arrive at doing MBW24.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
And I could easily see a couple, 2 or 3 decks here. One for the general public, which this is, and then one specific for the production team, because that's going to be important to detail, and people having examples and having an idea of what they're getting into. Like, is this really what I want to get involved with?
Yeah.
So a deck for the production team seems important in that way.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say, I think for those people involved deeply in the production, they need a kind of tight script, knowing what's happening at different times, and it's quite planned out. But for a lot of people, that will be not useful. It'll just be too much information.
Yeah, and each of those, they'll come in their due time. You know, like when we get Jared with Ari, you know, we get the production circle going in that scale of actually doing the MBW and getting the teams together around the world. That will happen when we start those meetings with Jared and start growing that circle.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm thinking is that, you know, it's been in my mind at the point where we want to invite in, you know, Ari, your network, and I'm also thinking of Ali, my partner's kind of camera film production network, they're going to want to know, so what are you asking me to do? Where's the content? What's required? And what, you know, and so they're going to look for, you know, where something quite, from my knowledge of people in that industry, they're very practical and very sort of hands-on. So it might be that there's a specific thing that's required for that that group of people.
That's why I think, that's why we have the story circle, production circle, and the community circle, and people will be stepping in and out of each of those or participating in multiple ways. But if we have that's bringing in the stories and the content and the way we want to activate that, you know, and by the way, production circle for me is inclusive of how do we build community. It's everything about this project. It's not just that 24 hours, it's about getting there as well. So I see that as what we're doing as part of this production circle of the overall arching.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. The other part of the playbook, since Mark and I were requested to look at the conscious agreements and then also the initiation welcome part. I love using welcome rather than initiation. I think it makes a lot of sense. And so Mark and I came together and composed what that piece, the initiation welcome paragraph would be. And we could go over that. And then also regarding the conscious agreements, we also asked Charles what he thought about this, like declaring our agreements, or what would the agreements be, and just the idea of having a collective agreement. What is his thoughts on that? And he was sharing with us that it's a lot of the agreements out there are, what did he say, Mark? It was it starts with the word P. Patronizing. It was patronizing. And then I asked Ari to also share, because he came across this conscious agreement that he was inspired by. And I really liked it, actually. And I was thinking, instead of calling it conscious agreements, we could just call it like our declaration. It's basically our creating that culture, and we're inviting people to create that culture with us. So, and in a way, we are declaring what we believe in and what our values are. Thank you for sharing. And I love this, choose your path of sovereignty. You know, I agree with Charles that a lot of the conscious agreements out there is just like respect each other and listen to each other, etc. These are things that it's patronizing, but something inspiring like this will remind us, like, oh wow, this is a group of people who really believe this. I want to be part of that. That sounds amazing. So rather than calling it conscious agreements, it's actually a declaration of who we are, what we believe in, what we're creating. So I just want to approach it in that way.
I think that's great.
This is from,
Yeah.
Oh, this is from Ari, and it's from
Game P.
Game.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
There's other ones like that too. It's you know, do we boil it down, or do we just, one thought that we had was we just share them and tell where they've come from. So we're showing how other different circles are, you know, coming together around. Yeah. So on the one hand, Charles said, you know, it was don't be patronized, don't expect to impose rules onto people, but yet at the same time you want to understand kind of the foundation so that everybody's on the same page, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think people want to know, what am I engaging in? What's expected of me? And what can I expect?
Was it like a code of conduct?
Yeah, it's a code of conduct. It's basically our culture. We're creating the culture, the codes in which we build the culture. Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting to go back to the quote from Charles, from the clip, that we're really trying to nurture this space to be able to grow these stories. And it is like a petri dish of new story that's been, that's got everything in the past in it, but now there's something new happening in the way the culture is mingling together in this new way. And we're a part of that. We're in it in that moment of time. And
yeah. It feels very much to me like it's working as a collective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, for our culture, very new.
And I think that goes back to kind of where we landed originally when we were focusing on the initiation and bringing people in. And that in the phrase, the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, the key is in the word our hearts. And that's where we come together. And that's how we built our whole welcome walk and initiation that we did the other week.
Okay.
So that concept.
I just want to bring our attention to that we have 5 minutes, and then so we're going to wrap it up now, and maybe final thoughts and ideas, and then I'd like to talk about the next steps. What are we going to do? Next steps. So any final thoughts on the playbook? Mark and I will then insert those pieces into the playbook, look at the language, kind of refine that a little bit, and then Mark, as Paul requested, like creating your art, I
will work on interpreting, just like I did on the first batch, that first document. I'll take this and try and make it the next step of that information.
Beautiful. And will you have that ready for us the next time?
Yeah, I would like to work on that over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you could just share your working progress with us so that we can get an idea too. And okay, great. So
I have one piece of feedback, which is more of just the message and the words rather than the structure. Is the word counters. Say like it counters the story of the despair and all that, which it gives a sense of reactivity, or like in reaction to or in opposition of, which I think the word was really meant in terms of more like an antidote, like it's an antidote to the story. But yeah, I just wonder what I think it's important to introduce that there's this miasma of this despair that's everywhere, and it seems like the only thing. But hey, this is something else, and it's like a balm. But yeah, I wonder. Yeah,
a soothing balm.
A soothing balm.
Yeah, it's great.
I wonder whether the word it expands the story rather than counters it.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's something. Yeah, sorry, go on, Rose.
No, sorry, I was just going to say that I thought that actually with the declaration as well, anti-rivalrous, I think was the word, and I wonder whether using, I agree, like positive words rather than something negative or anti-something is more in line with what we're doing.
I mean, it could be. Remember, I was trying to create a humanifesto. It could be our humanifesto.
Humanifesto. That I like that.
So we'll play with words. We'll continue to play with words. So for our next meeting, what is our intention? Again, yeah.
I can tell you what I've got for Ben Roberts and I. He'll be available. He's actually in Northern California. He'll be available after the 5th.
Okay.
And I wanted to connect with him. Whoever would like to be in on that, we can find the right time sooner than later. Because we need to anticipate what that means to engage with him. For now, March 23rd. And then I'd like to connect with Ari and Paul on making some dates to get the production circle started with whoever you guys feel would be the right people to bring in at this first stage to grow that circle and have intent behind it. I'd like to see that happen soon. And the story circle just kind of keeps.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then with that in mind, also, I've reached out to different Indigenous people that I know that do ceremony.
Wonderful.
And so working on that end. Let's see. So for next time, we'll go over Mark's version of this and then fine tune it together, look at that. Ben Harper, maybe. Ben, what's his name? Robert, sorry. Robert. And maybe giving us a summary of that meeting and what that could look like for us. And so I'm just trying to look at the bigger, like the timeline. So for our next meeting, so this is kind of like finalizing, fine-tuning the playbook, so to speak, so that we will be ready to then initiate people the meeting after. Does that sound about right to everybody?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I think especially if we're thinking about doing that in the next few sessions, opening it up, maybe next week we'd talk about how we would know if the person coming forward to join in this project is sort of in line and knows what we're doing, and it works to have them. Like, how do we go about that process?
Yeah. Okay, great, Rose. Thank you. And one of the things that we should start thinking up, Charles had mentioned important agreements to think about is our boundaries. Like, what if there's somebody that we don't want as part of our team? What would that process look like? We have to be conscious in our agreements and how that's processed. So just start to think about that, as Rose was mentioning, that process in initiating people, but also being aware of the boundaries we want to create to really be a strong and clear container for what we're creating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think there are content boundaries and there are probably people boundaries, if that's the right word. Yeah.
Okay. And so that would be a different group of conscious agreements within our team, right? Our core team, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then we could share however it's okay.
Yeah.
How does that sound to everybody?
When's our next meeting?
Oh yeah, would it be next Friday? I was just thinking, are we sticking with this time and
this is
day?
Not a great time for me at all.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's the end of the Monday to Friday. We're at the end of a.
Okay.
It's kind of like and so I'm not sure, but why don't you kind of agree a time and share it around, and we'll do the best to.
Oh God.
Would Thursday work? Thursday this time next week? Wednesday, Thursday?
Thursday would be okay.
Thursday?
I can't do Wednesdays and Thursdays, but don't worry. If you do that time, then I'll catch up on the calls. I can do Monday, Tuesday, Fridays at this time. So I can do this time.
Why don't we stick at? Okay, let's stick at Friday, and I'll do that next Friday. Yeah.
Okay, and then
same time. Sorry.
Same time. Yeah.
Same time. Yeah. And then maybe the week after, we'll really think of a date that really works for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone.
Right, bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Happy weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.